This is episode 4 of Nonprofit Navigators, a web series interviewing nonprofit stakeholders to discuss engagement and communication through digital media with a focus on the challenges of a global pandemic. Today we're speaking with Josh Paris, co-founder and director of Las Margaritas Foundation. They are dedicated to helping serve the needs of children in the Dominican Republic and providing opportunities for them to become leaders and bring positive change to their community. Hey Josh, thanks for being here on episode 4 of Nonprofit Navigators. So you've had a nonprofit that you and your wife put together about 10 years ago, and you're a co-director of it, as well as you are the head of a math department and a teacher and a husband and a father and so much more. I know your time is at a premium, so thanks for spending time with us to tell us more about Las Margaritas Foundation.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about. We're going to get into some specifics about how things are going during the current situation with the pandemic and all that. But let's use the rewind clock and talk about the history of Las Margaritas Foundation. And I want to talk about what the moment in time was that prompted your organization to begin.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started our foundation in 2014 or so. And I think that moment of that sort of sparked its creation actually happened a couple of years earlier. So my wife is from the Dominican Republic. We have been down there almost every summer with our kids since we got married in 1997. And as our kids got older, we were raising them bilingually here. And when we went to the Dominican Republic, it was fine when the kids were younger, but when they got to a certain age, we wanted them really hanging out with more kids their own age. They had some cousins in the DR, but the problem was that when they were around us, we would just be speaking English too much. And so we wanted them more immersed in the Dominican culture so that they would learn the language and also learn a lot more about kind of what it's like to be a Dominican kid. And so we thought, let's send them to, I grew up going to summer camp. I went to a public YMCA summer camp for 8-9 years. And we're like, let's find a camp in the Dominican Republic when we're there for our kids to hang out and do fun stuff with other kids. And we couldn't find anything. So and that's where really the seed started. And so as we couldn't find anything, we started to look around and notice that like none of the kids were doing anything productive in the summer. There was just nothing for them to do. And so they were hanging out on the streets, and that's when kids can get in trouble and make some bad decisions. And so at that point we said, well, let's start our own summer camp. So that was in 2010. And so we went down with our 2 kids and we gathered about 10 other kids from the neighborhood and started a summer camp in the elementary school where my wife went to school when she was a kid, which is about 2 blocks away from the house that she grew up in, and her family still lives in now. So we started with about 10 kids, did it for a week, and kids had a great time, and we felt like we were helping out these Dominican kids at the same time as our own. So like, great. We went back a couple years later and did the same thing again. And then we doubled kind of the amount of kids that went to the camps. We had like 20, 25 that year. And we're like, great, that was great. And then we just started talking, my wife and I, with her brother Samuel, about like how we could have a greater influence on the Dominican community and on the community in San Cristobal, where my wife grew up. So we got to talking and we said, well, if we're gonna do this, we need funding. We need, if we're gonna scale this at all, we need some more funding. And so that's when we created our nonprofit foundation. And with Samuel's help, he does a lot of the business side of it. And so we got our nonprofit status and started doing some fundraising, and then it kind of took off from there.
Nice. you must be doing something right. It's still in existence. I'm going to circle back with some questions about that. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we're talking about in this series is communication and digital media. What kind of digital media formats does Las Margaritas Foundation use? Like social, I don't know if you do any advertising or digital or radio or anything like that. What kind of communication works for your organization?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. I mean, I think really we're still a pretty small organization.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't ask this, but like our goal every year was to raise
Mm-hmm.
about $20,000.
Okay.
And we figured we could do what we needed to do with that amount of money. And we always had in the back of our mind that we would want to maybe get bigger and raise more funds. But, my wife and I are both working full time.
Yeah.
My wife's brother works full time. We're like, we just don't have the time to be doing that.
Sure.
And so we figured out kind of how big we wanted to be, and then came up with a budget that would match that.
Mm-hmm.
So, so we haven't used a lot of, I think, social media to raise funds. We are pretty active in our community in Brookline, and so through those networks, we're generally able to raise those funds. So what we do is we have, we have our website with all the information on it. We're on Twitter and Facebook. And then I also write a blog that's connected to all of that, which I should be better at. I tend to write a lot in the summer, especially when we're doing the camps, and I'll write every day when I'm there, and then not really as much during the year. So so that's kind of that's really what we do. We talk about sort of upping our game as we kind of grow as a foundation, but that's where we are right now.
So you're a fairly small foundation, small organization, but you've been successful. There's research that shows 30, maybe 50%, maybe more of nonprofits fail. Why is your organization still around? Is there something that you've done that like, here's our goal, here's how we get there, and this is how we're going to continue to stay relevant and stay open?
Yeah, I think what we've done is, so a big thing that we did was we started to bring, when our kids entered high school, we started to bring other high school kids with us to the Dominican Republic. So we kind of started, I think the first time we did that was 2015. And we started just with kind of friends and neighbors, and they just came along. And they would pay their airfare and such, but then they wanted to come along and they would volunteer in the camp. And then after that, we thought that would be a really good way to raise funds. And like we did some research, and there's all of these service learning opportunities all over the world. And we looked at the way those operated, and we're like, God, they cost a lot of money for kids to do that. And so we should charge kids to do that. And so we did that for, and we've done that really since then. And so that really enabled us to raise a bunch of money for the foundation, because we had the infrastructure in the Dominican Republic. And so the funds we were able to raise, we could pour directly into the community in the Dominican Republic. And that, I think, really helped us to grow. At the same time, we then began to expand kind of our different programs. So I think that the main focus of our work is still the summer camps that we do. But then we started to do other things, like we started a literacy club, that's run by Tanya's niece during the school year. And then we started another program of sending a girl to college.
Nice.
Because it doesn't really cost a lot, but it's more really than families can afford. So so with a very little financial support, we could send kids, we could help kids go to college in the Dominican Republic, which fit very nicely into our own worlds of educators. So we did that, and so I think, to answer your question, as I sort of stumble around here, is I think we've been pretty flexible in figuring different ways we can support the community in the Dominican Republic. And so it seems like every year it's like, oh, we have a new initiative, and so we can go back to our supporters and say, thank you so much for supporting us in the past, and it's been so successful, we couldn't have done it without you, and now we're doing this, and so would you like to support that? And so I think what we've been able to do really is we have some donors that continue to fund us every single year, and that's what's enabled us to be successful. And also the other thing, Chris, is I think my wife more than myself actually is very well connected in Brookline as a kindergarten teacher, and is very close to lots and lots of families. She's been doing that in Brookline for 15 years. And so kind of her network of people that she knows personally and closely is extensive. And we can rely on them when we need the funds to do what we need to do.
Nice. I have a kind of a funny question. What's the most unexpected event, something like that has happened since and with Las Margaritas? So something surrounding the foundation. What's the most unexpected thing that's happened since you began? It could be positive or negative, just something you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so I guess I can answer it this way. One thing that we did one thing that we do as a foundation is we aside from doing our camps, is we raise funds to buy goods that that kids need. So we had a school supply drive for a couple of years. We would buy backpacks and fill them with school supplies. We've also bought lots of books and brought them down to donate to various libraries and the school, and also to kids. And that's where I'm going with this. So one time we had a whole bunch of books, and we went around and we were figuring out how to get them directly to families. And so we went to some of the most needy areas in Madre Vieja, which is the community in San Cristobal that we do work, and we distributed the books. And so we had a pickup truck from someone that we borrowed, and we loaded all the books in the pickup truck, and a bunch of us went there, and it was just amazing to see what happened. I mean, as soon as when we pulled up in our pickup truck, Tanya's mother is very well known, so Doña Yolanda, Tanya's mother, gets out of the truck, and people knew her and came to say hi, and then the rest of us kind of got out of the truck and started unloading the books. And then, so a couple kids would come by and we're like, here's a book. And then a few more. And then we'd see the kids kind of take the books, and then they'd leave a little bit, and they'd come back with like 5 friends. And in a little bit, it was like a swarm of our truck was surrounded by like hundreds of kids, in a matter of 10 minutes. Yeah. And we're giving out books as fast as we can, and we're like, wait, I just gave you a book 2 minutes ago, so go away. And and trying to like monitor who got what book, and it was just really powerful. It was a little kid's book, and we're just so used to. I don't want to get on my high horse here, but I'm a father. Our kids had every book they ever wanted, and and yet, and they're just such a second nature to families in the United States. And these kids had never had a book to read. The only books they read were in school.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant so much to them. And they were so just like grateful to us. So it was a pretty intense and powerful experience. And we were there doing it with a whole bunch of, high schoolers, including our own kids. And I watched them experience that. And I thought, this is just has to be such a powerful experience for these kids to see. So it was pretty
That's
cool.
lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And what a gift to not just the kids that got the book, but everyone involved. Everybody wins like that, and the students that you had with you and your kids, that gift that you gave them of being a part of that will resonate with them forever. That's outstanding. I think, so my next question, I think I know where you might swing with this because your focus is summer camps, but what's been the biggest pivot that you've had to make since the pandemic began, and what are you doing to adjust?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we were planning on running our camps this summer, and we were going to go down there. And at this point, we're running 2 camps in 2 different communities in the DR. So we've expanded over the last couple of years to include even more kids. We did that the first time last summer, and it went really well. I'm not sure we pivoted so much as we, I think we, like every organization, is looking, every nonprofit organization is looking at their funds and figuring out, well, how can we best utilize our funds? How can we make the biggest difference? Where's the biggest need that that we can address? And so we took so we're basically reallocating the funds that we would have used to run the camp in the summer, and directing them towards different organizations in the DR. So which has been a lot of work to figure out how to make sure we can be the most effective at this. So what we're doing now is we're basically supporting like the first responders. So doctors and nurses in hospitals, the Red Cross is active there. The national, like the sort of like their equivalent of like the National Guard is out, doing a lot of work with families. And so, right now we're supplying meals for them, for them, because they need our support. They don't make a lot of money at this. And so that's where we directed our funds for now. What we want to do is, and yet the thing about the DR is a lot of families are living, hand to mouth. Like people don't have savings. A lot of people don't have savings. So when you tell them, you can't go out and work, you need to stay at home, parents are saying, well, I need to, what am I going to do? And so they are, which could really have a pretty dramatic impact in the spread of the disease. We hope not, but it might. So, but we want to be able to help those families and provide food for those families that really need it. And that, I think, is going to be the next phase of the work we need to do. But we need to be careful with that because we need to figure out how to do that equitably. We don't have the funds to feed everybody, so we need to figure out how we can access the families and which ones. And we're going to do that. So Tanya's, my wife's mother, is here with us now. She came to visit in March and then was just going to be here for a few weeks and then got stuck here. And she's really our community liaison in the Dominican Republic. So we're kind of putting the efforts to work with families directly on hold, really until she can go back and lead those efforts.
Nice. That seems like a thoughtful reallocation of funds. I just have one more question. I appreciate you sharing all of this with us. what message of hope or optimism would you leave people with?
You know, I've been so impressed with how generous people are um, throughout this whole pandemic that's going on. You know, this has hit hard, obviously, um, and it's hitting in very inequitable ways.
Yeah.
And I think people who have the means are really stepping up and looking to places where they can help. I mean, I think people do that in general, but even more so now. And, just from, restaurants are closed. And so, people are supporting restaurant workers and,
Yeah.
Our bookstore is closed and people are supporting local bookstores and other local businesses. So I think, and you and I talked about this before, I think it's very local right now. I think people's financial support really is turning much more local than global. And people want to support those most in need in their communities. And so that's the hope I see. I think people really are coming together and taking care of each other. And I'm hoping that I think we need to do more of that in this country. I think there's a lot of that in this country, and I think there needs to be a lot more. And I'm hoping that the one good thing, the silver lining maybe in all of this is that people have an even greater sense of community and of communal responsibility. And excuse me. And then we can build on that and be a stronger, more forgiving nation and world. And world. I'm not as hopeful actually about that, but at least on the local level, I'm hopeful.
Well, got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Josh Paris of Las Margaritas Foundation. You have dedicated your life to serving others through education and giving back. Thanks for spending time with us and sharing your thoughts. Hopefully, maybe other nonprofits can pick up some ideas from our conversation, or maybe it just inspires someone to go to your website and click a link and find out something, or be like, oh, hey, you know what? He's right. The frontline people there need some help, which is kind of the goal of these whole conversations with Nonprofit Navigators, is to hopefully inspire some thought and maybe some action with people. So thank you, my friend. It is a pleasure to see you and speak with you. Best to you and your family. Stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy. And everyone who's watching this, thanks for watching Nonprofit Navigators, and we will be back with you another time soon. So thanks, everybody.
Great. Thanks for having me, Chris.